Here we go. We are learning tonight the Siman Reish Nun Zayin, Dine Hatmana Chamen, the laws of insulating warm food. So I'll just give you a bit of background, and that is in Shabbos Lamed Daled Amud Aleph 34a. It says in the Gemara, Amar Rava says, if they ma amru ein tomnin medavar she'ein ma'asav hevel mishlech hashecha. Why did they say you're not allowed to insulate in something that does not add heat when it's dark, when it's already Shabbos? It doesn't add heat. You're not really doing anything. What's the problem? You're just maintaining the heat. Gzeira shema yartiach. There's a decree. Maybe he will boil it. Maybe he will boil it. Rashi explains that whenever you insulate something in something that does not add heat, you must make it as hot as possible before you put it into that insulation. Because after all, the insulation is only going to maintain whatever heat it has. It's not going to add any heat. So you want it to be as hot as possible. You want it to literally be boiling. You take it boiling from the stovetop, you put it into the blankets. So if you're going to do that on Shabbos, and you find that it's not boiling, maybe you will boil it.
What's the CSA you passed yesterday?
We went all the way to Reish Nun Zayin.
So you finished and Daled,
Yeah. Reish Nun Hey. Reish Nun Hey and Reish Nun Vav I did very quickly because it's not really.
I was going to come and then somebody hacked into my computer. I can make Microsoft to control my computer back.
Well, no, Reish Nun Hey and Reish Nun Vav we did very quickly because it's not really about Shia Hatmana, so we just read it through quickly. It took us about 10 minutes for the whole thing. Okay.
I have a question. I came across it, but I didn't find the final answer to it. When people take a bowl, let's say, of milk or daisa, and they put it inside another cup full of water, hot to warm it up. It's considered as Hatmana if it's covering the whole level of the.
In a cliche, it's okay. If the water.
The water is hot. So the water shouldn't be in creation. Creation is impossible.
Well, what is it? The dye says cold or hot? No problem. Hatmana only applies to hot things. Same thing. Hatmana only applies to hot things, not to cold things. As far as Bishul, that's another question. We'll have to address that later. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's a cliche. It's already hot. Yeah, it's already cooked. It's no problem.
I got this set, the Shabbos.
Oh, okay, good.
I had to order it from England.
England. Wow.
Couldn't find it over here.
Wow. Oh, it's very good. It's a very good set.
There, but I got from England.
It's a very good set.
Yeah. And very easy language. Very simple.
So we're learning Shabbos Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. We're saying that Rava says that the reason you cannot do Hatmana on Shabbos is because you may boil the food, bring it to the boil before you do the Hatmana. Now the question is, I'm doing Reish Nun Zayin, but I'm first giving you an introduction from the Gemara. So the question is, this is all good if you say, Yesh Bishal Achar Bishal Balach, which is the opinion of Rashi. Others too, I think the Rashba also holds that. But the Rambam holds Ein Bishal Achar Bishal Balach. Doesn't hold it Bishal Achar Bishal Balach. So how does he explain the Gemara? Gzeira Shema Yartiach. There's a decree that he may bring it to the boil on Shabbos. What's the problem? Let him bring it to the boil. Adarabba, no problem. The problem is the Beis Yosef explains that he may add wood to the fire to bring it to the boil. And that's, of course, mavir, that's igniting a fire. That's also even according to the Rambam.
Are we holding the Bishul HaRishut Mutzak?
Mazam Mutzak.
Mutzak, like solid.
No.
No?
Ein bishal achar bishal biyavesh. Yavesh. 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 How do you define yavesh? That's another question. If it's yavesh, ein bishal achar bishal. If it's lach, like what? The mashal. Give me an example.
Roast of meat.
Meat? The thing about meat is that it usually has gravy.
It's not pieces, it's like one roast.
The thing about meat is that it usually has gravy. And according to the Alter Rebbe, if the gravy is going to melt and become liquid, then it's a problem. Other person can say no, only if it's liquid now. But according to the Alter Rebbe, it's going to be a problem. So that's the issue. If there would be no gravy, it would be okay. It would be totally dry, it would be okay.
So we can be mild and hot water on something that's a mutsak, something solid.
If it's only solid, no liquid, yeah, no problem. Okay, the point is, why is it only forbidden when it gets dark? I'm sorry? No, I'm reading the Gemara. I'm giving you an introduction. Even though I didn't send it out today as a handout, I'm just teaching Torah Shabbal Peh, like the olden days. So, why are you not allowed to?
Send it like on the papers that you send us, at least from which Gemara you started, so you know.
I usually do. I usually, yeah. It usually says which Gemara. It's in English, but it says. I don't know how to type in Hebrew, that's the problem. Anyway, the point is that Abaya says, why is it forbidden, why is it permissible to be matman in Bein Hashmashas? How does Abaya know that? He knows it. Bein Hashmashas, which is after the sun sets, it's already Shabbos. Stars didn't come out yet, but it's already, we already keep Shabbos 100%. Why is it that you're allowed to do Hatmana at that time if there's a decree that you might heat up the pot? Why would it be only usher at night and not in Bein Hashmashas? Rav answers, Stam Kederis Rois Chois Hein. The answer is that every Balabosta, right before Shabbos, brings all her food to the boil. Maybe it's not liquid, so it's not boiling literally, but it's hot. Right before Shabbos, you get everything hot. So if you wait until night to do the Hatmana, by that time maybe it cooled off, and you'll want to reheat it. That's the decree. But in Bein Hashmashas, in the very first few minutes of Shabbos, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it is, your mamash just boiled it, it's still going to be hot. There's no decree, and therefore you're allowed to do Hatmana in that Bein Hashmashas.
But it has to be hot.
What do you mean it has to be hot? It presumably is hot.
But
Presumably it's hot.
So they're allowed to do Hatmana, so basically you're not allowed to do Hatmana for something that's already hot.
That's what Hatmana is.
But if it's something that is not so hot, it's not boiling.
Like what?
Like the Hatmana can be allowed to from Yad Soledet and up, or even from less than Yad Soledet. Less
than Yad Soledet, as we're going to see later, is not even called Hatmana. It doesn't go into the whole category of Hatmana. Because the whole point of Hatmana is to maintain heat. If it's less than Yad Soledet, it's not even hot.
So maybe what with Hatmana is going to help him to reach after Yad Soledet.
No. I'm talking about Hatmana b'davar she'enoi moisif hevel. Right now I'm talking about in something that does not add heat. If it adds heat, that's a whole other story we're going to learn about in a minute. But now I'm talking about putting it in a blanket. There's no way the blanket...
But the definition, like if it's helping not to lose heat, basically... Yeah,
but less than Yad Soledet boy is not heat. Al pi halacha, less than Yad Soledet boy is not hot. So it's not called Hatmana if it's less than Yad Soledet boy.
Yeah, but if it's exposed to the room, it's not going to get less. But if you're keeping it, it's not going to... Everything you're going to cover going to raise the temperature.
Raise impossible. You cannot raise temperature with something that does not add heat. A blanket maintains heat, does not add heat. There's no way a blanket is going to add any heat to a pot.
Of course it will.
Of course it won't.
Because the walls of the pot doesn't get cold.
But they're not going to
But it's not going to get hotter.
They're not going to get hotter.
But not losing the heat, you're increasing the heat.
You're not increasing the heat. You're just not losing the heat. It's scientifically impossible to increase heat without other heat.
It's already on the fire.
It's not on the fire. It's not on the fire. You took it off the fire.
Okay, it's on the,
And you're insulating.
Off the fire.
okay, no. It's off the fire. So
Off the fire,
So
absolutely.
it's on the fire.
It's like a thermos.
Okay. So we continue and we say, Valma Rava says, Mipnei ma, Omru ein temnim b'davar ha'moisef hevel afilu mi'bo'ed yoim. Why do they say you're not allowed to add, you're not allowed to insulate in something that adds heat, even while it's still Friday? What's the reason for that, din? Why can you not do Hatmana in something that adds heat, even on Friday?
Maybe it wants to increase the heat after.
Okay, but it's on Friday.
Are you talking about Ben Hashmach?
No, Friday. Mi'ba'od yom.
Hatmana in
Still
something
Friday.
that
Adds heat.
Like,
We're going to give examples of things that add heat. But in those days, they used to maybe use, agricultural items that were decomposing and would add heat and so on. Nowadays, it's really hard to find this, except, according to some poskim, on a blech. If you put towels around a pot on a blech, so then the heat of the flame or the coil, whatever, is going to cause the towels to add heat.
What about sand on the beach?
About what, sorry?
Sand on the beach.
Sand on the beach. Yeah, I think sand is one of the things that adds heat. If it's hot, like if it's heated from the sun, then the sun adds heat.
but
Then the sand adds heat.
But sun is not a problem if that heats up, right?
No. Sun is not a problem as far as cooking with sun, but insulating with something that's heated by the sun is a problem. You see, the laws of insulating are very different than the laws of cooking, because the whole point of insulating, we're going to see in a minute, is that if you would insulate something that adds heat, you might insulate in coals, and if you insulate in coals, you might stoke them. So therefore, it's not about the fact that you're cooking now. You may not be cooking now, but if it's a type of insulation that resembles coals, it's forbidden.
So, okay, can you take a pot and put it like in the Chametz variant to the wall of one?
Yeah, that's in the
No.
Gemara they talk about.
Exactly. They speak about that in the Mishnah. Actually, the sun, it's not the sun; it's the Chametz variant. But that's forbidden. That's called Hatmana. That's a perfect example. You're allowed to cook in Chametz variant, but you're not allowed to do Hatmana in Chametz variant, because Hatmana is not also because of Bishul. It's also, as we're going to say in a minute, because you may use the coals as an insulator, different time, not this time, a different time. And then if you use the coals, you might stoke them. So there's no Bishul, it's not a Bishul issue, it's a pure Hatmana issue.
So the old Hatmana.
Yeah, but the source of the problem is the same. It's the stoking the coals.
I understand.
It's
understand.
different.
Well, the coals are not Bishul either. Coals are Havar, igniting. It's not a Bishul issue.
So all the Hatmana is about the Chasash to be Chote by Gechalim afterwards.
Yes, but even though it's not, there's no Gechalim here,
So,
but if it's Moisef Hevel, then you might next time do it in Gechalim. And then you might stoke.
so if it give an example for the black and you're going to put it on, there's no concept of Chote by Gechalim.
Doesn't make a difference. The examples that the Gemara gives,
Is it zero on top of the zero?
yeah, absolutely, it's a double gzeira. We make double gzeira sometimes if the Chachamim feel it's very likely to happen. So the Gemara gives many examples of Dara Moisef Hevel, like we said, sand if it's heated by the beach, manure, certain gefes shel zaysim, decomposing olives, decomposing shumshamin, sesame seeds, all kinds of natural things that are decomposing that give off heat. There's no coals. You can't stoke it. Nevertheless, because you might come to do it with coals, that's why. That's why they said you can't do it in this.
But can you? Why would you even insulate with coals then?
Oh, that's the best. What do you mean?
I understand that, but why would you insulate with coals? I can understand with when we're talking about, the stoking the coals, all that, because that's the normal way that you would be cooking the coals, so you could come to. But when it comes to Hatmana, the coals shouldn't, in theory, they shouldn't even be on the radar screen as a form of Hatmana.
Why not? If you would be allowed to, you would certainly want to insulate the coals. That's the best. You're saying, why would you? Because it's not allowed.
And that was, but it's not, I can understand how it could be more of a temptation or a mistake, because when they were in the oven and we're worrying about the stoking the coals and all that, they're there already. But here, it's a second act of you have to go, you have to get the coals, you have to insulate.
We're not saying you're going to insulate in coals right now. Right now, you just went through the bother of getting some manure from your barn and sticking your pot in it. I don't know how it's going to smell, but that's another point. You're not going to go now and switch your pot into coals.
So you're saying that
the point is next week.
Next week and say, I'm going to insulate with coals.
Exactly. Once they stopped you from insulating in anything that adds heat, you'll for sure never come to insulating coals, because you can't do it anything that adds the heat.
So you can't insulate with any of
correct.
items that's going to...
That is correct.
Robert, when the aluminum pan that you're using for cooking, if you're doing a double pan, for any reason, for you want to be stronger, or the one when you're baking, I don't know what is going to consider as Hatmana?
No, you're just strengthening the pan. That's not going to be it. You're just strengthening the pan. That's not going to be Hatmana.
So basically, when you put something in the oven, the issue to put something in the oven, because usually it's Hatmana. What is more, it's...
What do you mean? On Shabbos or before Shabbos?
Both ways, either one.
Before Shabbos, it's a Shehiyah issue, not a Hatmana issue.
There's no issue with Hatmana before Shabbos
In the oven, no. We're going to discuss it later, but Hatmana only applies if the thing that's insulating is snug against the walls. If there's air in between, it's nothing. It's not Hatmana. I mean, it's not nothing. It's Shehiyah maybe, but it's not Hatmana. As far as on Shabbos, it's a Chazorah issue. So it's not a Shehiyah or a Hatmana issue. It's a Chazorah issue.
Actually, touching the wall of the pot considers Hatmana.
Yeah.
If it's very bit space, it's already
Not Hatmana. Okay, so again, Rabbi's question is: tell them
or just
in the Shulchan Aruch it says the top also, but in the Madur Basar, the Alter Rebbe seems to change even just the sides. In the Madur Basar, in the later edition of the Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe seems to say even if just the sides, it's also Hatmana. But in the Shulchan Aruch he says the top and the sides. Okay, I'm just giving an introduction, so we're not in the Shulchan Aruch yet. Why do they say you cannot insulate in something that adds heat, even before Shabbos? There's a decree that he may insulate, actually it's not in coals alone, in a remetz, which is ashes, that has coals in them. Abaya says, V'yatman, so what? Well, it's before Shabbos, why not? How are you going to get it out on Shabbos? Okay, you'll wait till the coals die, or you'll get a goy, what's the big deal? There's a decree that he may stoke the coals. Now notice, the Gemara does not differentiate between... I think it's a baby room for the bar mitzvah. I think you're allowed to. Yeah. I think it's like Chamet Tveria. I think it's like Chamet Tveria. It's a natural. No, but in terms of the fact that it's not, it's like the Chama. It's like the Chama. It's not like Ur. It's not like fire. I think so, but I don't want to say for sure because, maybe if anybody's listening in Hawaii and they have a volcano and they want to do it, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to say yet. We'll get to Shin Yud Ches and I'll be able to answer better if it's Hashem.
Technology.
Oh, you were watching? I didn't. How did you find me? I didn't invite you.
Because I subscribed.
Oh, you
So I
subscribed?
get an email.
Oh, you get an email.
and there you were.
Excellent.
Which leads me
Yeah.
to the question. I don't want to disturb. But if you Is there any way to do it like last night? I also just listened to it.
Good,
with the
good.
link, but
Yeah.
You didn't send anything.
I didn't know that you wanted.
I know. So I just went to
Yeah, if you want me to invite you, I'll invite you. Why not?
yeah. But you can just look at it live, right?
Yeah, but if you want to ask questions, you can. If you're invited, then you get to ask questions.
So there's no way to find that link without being invited.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know. Yes.
Amazing.
Question? No. Okay. So, one other Mishnah that I want to learn with you before we start the Shulchan Aruch, and this is in Lamed Ches Amud Beis, all in Shabbos. This is a very famous Mishnah, and a lot is learned from this Mishnah. Here goes. Maisa Sha'asu Anche Tveria. A story with the people of Tveria. Ve'eviu silan shel tzoinen letech amo shel chamen. They took a silan, which is like a pipe of cold water, into the amma, the stream of hot water. Basically, it was Chame Tveria. That's why they mentioned that it was the people of Tveria. So Chame Tveria, these hot springs, and they wanted to heat up cold water in that hot spring. And the way Tosfos explains it is that the pipe of cold water was running through the stream of hot water, not mixing with it, and coming out the other end. And they wanted to use that warm water for whatever they wanted to use it for. They did it before Shabbos. Nevertheless, Amr Lehem Chacham, the Chachamim said, no good. In B'Shabbos, if it was a Shabbos question, Kechamen Shuchmu B'Shabbos, we're going to treat that hot water as if it was heated on Shabbos in a forbidden way. V'asurin B'Rechitza V'Shasiyah. And therefore you cannot use it for washing or for drinking.
The whole pipe was or just the one end. If one end is outside.
One was out.
Both ends.
Both ends
It
were
went
outside.
in,
The water
got
was-
heated, and it went out.
But part of it is outside, no?
Both ends were outside.
So
It was
it's not
just-
completely covered.
Well, the entrance and exit of the pipe was outside, but 95% of it was inside. At the point of entry and the point of exit was outside.
So they were using the hot water to cool.
To heat it up, exactly.
It was coming out.
This is the way they do shemesh, that's how they work, right? From the sun, because the water goes in.
Right, but there it gets heated by the sun.
Yeah.
There it gets heated by the sun. Here it was being heated by the Chame Tveria. The cold water was running through the Chame Tveria and getting heated by the Chame Tveria. The truth is there's other ways of explaining this Mishnah. Some say it was mixing in there. Some say it was not a pipe that went in and out. It was just like a closed, sealed pipe. They stuck it in
Pulled it out.
and they pulled it out. But let's just stick with Tosfos' shot for now. Anyway, the point is, it's forbidden, and you can't drink it, and you can't use it for washing, for bathing.
All is done before Shabbos.
This was done before Shabbos.
But for insulation, you can't use it. No, didn't they just say something about with cooking it'd be okay?
No,
But you know
what cooking? Asur and berachitza v'shasiyah. You can't use it for drinking or for washing, for bathing. Now you can't bathe in hot water your whole body anyway on Shabbos, but you can wash usually your hands or your face or part of your body, but not with water that was heated on Shabbos in a forbidden way.
When I say before Shabbos, how much is before Shabbos?
Before we're gonna-
Anytime.
What do you mean anytime?
Anytime?
So basically the Xeris is on Friday.
Oh, you mean if they started it on Thursday?
No.
Is that your question?
The Xeris is on Friday basically. So how much is before Shabbos? 1 hour, 2 hours, half a day?
Makes no difference.
Why
Anytime.
not? So how can you
Anytime.
make a Shabbos Zera on weekdays?
No problem. Just like Shehiyah. The whole Rishon Gimel is Shehiyah.
But it's on weekdays, it's not Shabbos.
The whole Rishon Gimel is Shehiyah, yes? Hello. The whole Rishon Gimel is Shehiyah. You cannot do Shehiyah before Shabbos unless it's cooked a certain
It
amount.
will be certain time before Shabbos. If it's
No.
cooked before Shabbos.
It's nothing to do with the time. It has to do with how cooked is it going to be when Shabbos comes in. We don't tell you, if it's a certain time before. It's no problem. Even when it comes to going on a ship, we have rules that apply even on Wednesday. You understand? If it's going to affect your Shabbos. They can make decrees during the week to make sure your Shabbos is holy. It's no problem.
Yeah, but already said before Shabbos, you have enough time to be at one and even take it out before Shabbos.
No, but you're planning to leave it in. Of course, if you're going to take it out before Shabbos, it's no problem. We're talking about putting it in and leaving it in on Shabbos. Of course, if you put it on Friday and you take it out before Shabbos, no problem. Talking about leaving it in. The Seder, the Gemara explains that the issue over here is Hatmana, because the Chame Tveria, the hot springs of Tveria, adds heat to this water. So you're doing a Hatmana in something that is Moisef Hevel, and that is forbidden even before Shabbos, like we just said before. And because it was done, and it was forbidden to be done, so therefore we punish them, so to speak, can't benefit from it. Just like any forbidden Shehiyah, forbidden Chazara, forbidden Malacha for that matter, and now forbidden Hatmana, you cannot benefit from it on Shabbos.
The Chame get more from the sun, correct?
The Chame Tveria get warm from under the earth. They're natural hot springs. They get heated from the lava or something like that.
So nothing to do with the cloudy day or not the cloudy day.
No. Va'asurin birachitza, sorry. And now, by the way, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, in b'yamtiv, if this was a yamtiv question, kechamet shulchan b'yamtiv, va'asurin birachitza mutar b'shsiyah, then it's like it was heated on yamtiv, and you can't bathe in it, but you're allowed to drink it. Meaning to say, the whole thing is that you may do a forbidden action of stoking the coals. Well, on Yom Tov, you're allowed to stoke the coals, so what's the problem? Yeah? You're allowed to stoke the coals on Yom Tov for cooking.
Only if you know it's going to increase the fire, not to turn it off.
Stoke.
Okay, but don't it know it's going to cause to increase the fire?
That's what you're doing here. The point is, so you're allowed to drink it because you would be allowed to stoke it for drinking. But you're not allowed to use it for bathing because you're not allowed to heat for the purpose of bathing. Right? On Yom Tov, you're only allowed to heat water, you're allowed to heat water for bathing part of the body, but not for bathing the whole body. So therefore, you cannot use this water for bathing, because if you could, then it might lead to you stoking it for the purpose of bathing.
So exactly from which halacha, I know Achenas Faradim, they don't be toiver on the mikvahs that heating up during Shabbos.
I mean, that's a simple halacha. You don't ask a question on them. You ask a question on us.
But we're not marking them.
So the question is not on them. The question is not on us. The halacha says you're not allowed to bathe in warm water on Shabbos, even if it was heated before Shabbos. How much more so if it's heated on Shabbos? So how do ourselves go to the hot mikvah on Shabbos? That's the question you have to ask. Not why do people not go?
Okay, thank you.
So, there's a chiddush of the Korban Asanal, I think it is, with Asanal Vial, who says that the Tvila is not Rechitza. That going in for the purpose of Tvila is not the same as bathing.
So the halacha is specific for the Rechitza.
Rechitza. He considers Tvila not to be Rechitza, which is a chiddush, but that's his chiddush, and that's what many Hasidim are saimach on. But certainly you cannot soak in the mikveh, as some people do, sit around and scratch and talk and whatever. That's forbidden on Shabbos. Friday is another story. But Shabbos, that's absolutely forbidden. In and out.
I assume they're going to shut the pump, right?
The heater, some say you have to shut the heater. Some say at the very least you should shut the heater, so it should be heated from before Shabbos, not heated on Shabbos.
No, but some type of the microwave, so let's say like Shabbos, 4 o'clock in the morning, if it's 7 o'clock, the heater is working.
I understand. There's different sheetas about that. Okay. With no further ado, we go to the Machaber Shulchan Aruch. Reish Nun Zayin Aleph. Ein Tamnim b'Shabbos. It is forbidden to do Hatmana on Shabbos, afilu b'davar she'eino meisef hevel, even in something that does not add heat. Aval b'safek chashecha toimnin boy. In the time of doubtful dark, it is permissible. That's what we just learned, that Abaya said, in Bein Hashmashas is permissible, and the reason we gave is because the pots at that time are hot anyway. You cannot do Hatmana in something that adds heat even from before Shabbos. We just explained why. Because you may insulate in coals and then you may stoke those coals. By the way, I forgot to tell you. I meant to tell you when I was learning the Gemara with you. The Gemara does not differentiate as far as Hatmana b'davar hamoisiv hevel, and Hatmana in something that adds heat, whether you are doing something that is half cooked, fully cooked, but stomach v'yafaloi, stomach v'raloi, doesn't say. Why not? When it comes to Shehiyah, we have this whole discussion, Chachamim, Chananya, ta. And here it just says, no, can't do it. Why? Yes, Ronnie?
No, just trying to say, Safek Chasecha is not Ben Hashmasha?
It is Ben Hashmashas. It's exactly Ben Hashmashas.
So it's allowed to.
Allowed to. That was Abaya. Abaya said, Safek Hashecha, you're allowed to, because that's when Stam Kederes Rois Chois Hein. That's when most pots are hot. All right?
No, and the Machaber doesn't say who is who.
No, it doesn't say who's who. I'm just giving you some background, just so it should sound sophisticated. But it is what it is. It's a clear halacha. Just wondering if we should ask Raphael if he's coming. We're going to need him for a minute. Just give me a second. Maybe 8. Okay, so did he say yesterday it wasn't coming? I don't remember. Okay, so the answer is, my friends, listen carefully. Why does it not say that there's a difference between fully cooked, half cooked, stomach v'yafalim, stomach, all those distinctions that we had by Shehiyah? Why does it not have it by Hatmana? So here I'm going to tell you. First, I'll tell you the opinion that's not the main halacha, but I'll just tell it to you because we are going to learn it eventually. I may as well tell it to you now. The Rashbam holds that all of the details that apply to Shehiyah apply to Hatmana. When it says that you cannot do Hatmana from before Shabbos because you might stoke the coals, that's only if it's not half cooked, according to Chananya. And according to the Chachamim, half cooked is a problem, but if it's fully cooked and it's mistamek or raloi, it's no problem. And for that matter, sorry?
Who you said holding it?
The Rashbam.
Whatever it's a Shabbos, it's going to be for Hatmana.
Whatever leniencies you have for Shehiyah, you have for Hatmana as well.
And some strictness also?
Like what? Like what?
I don't know, just asking. So just
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any strictness right now that Shehiyah has more than Hatmana, but I imagine he considers them the same. The Kolboy adds, the same thing applies if you were to cover the Hatmana, the Moisef Hevel part, right? If you were to take the the ashes cover them with something else, and then do Hatmana. Or for that matter, the gefes, whatever, cover it and then do the Hatmana. Also okay. All the leniencies that apply to Shehiyah apply to Hatmana. Why doesn't the Gemara say it? Because the Gemara knows that you're smart, and you just learned about Shehiyah a few pages ago, and that's it. I mean, actually, it's a few pages later. You're going to learn about it. You'll apply it, and that's it. However, most Rishonim, which is the halacha l'maisa, say no. The reason it doesn't differentiate by Hatmana with all these things is because there actually is no difference with Hatmana. Even if it's half cooked, fully cooked, even if it's mistamek v'ra'loi, even if the heat source is covered, all of those are forbidden if it's Hatmana b'davar hamoisiv hevel. And here's the reason for the difference. The way it was is that they used to do Shehiyah generally for the night meal, and they would generally do Hatmana for the day meal. Now, if you're doing Shehiyah, so for the night meal, you have to make sure it's going to be ready without stoking. That's the whole thing of Shehiyah. For the day meal, it's not really going to be hot, even if you stoke it. Because what is it? It's coals underneath it. The coals are dying down. There's no coals around it. How hot is it going to be by the time it comes to day? All the stoking in the world is not going to help you. So they didn't make any decree in that case, as long as it's going to be ready for the night meal, right? So, like for example, when it came to raw meat, we said you can do Shehiyah with raw meat because it's not going to be ready for the night meal. It will be ready for the day meal. Okay, but maybe you'll stoke it for the day meal? No. It's going to be cooked by the time the day meal goes. But for it, one sec, we're going to discuss that in a minute. But when it comes to keeping it hot for the day meal, it's not going to be hot anyway. It'll be cooked by then, no problem. But it's not going to be hot anyway because it's not insulated and the coals are dying down. So they didn't say a decree, don't do Shehiyah for the day because you may stoke it, because stoking is not going to help. However, when it comes to Hatmana, where it's insulated and it's in a manner that it adds heat, so now that's a good method to keep it hot for the day, but it may need to be stoked to make sure it stays hot. Now we have a problem. So therefore they said, even if it's already half cooked, but you want it to be hot the next day. Even if it's fully cooked, you want it to be hot. Even with mistamek v'ra'loi, the fact is it's shrinking, but you still want it to be hot. And if you stoke it, it will stay hot. So therefore they forbade it. Even raw meat, which is permissible by Shehiyah, is a problem. Because we're not concerned that you're going to get it ready for the night meal. That it's not going to be ready for. We're concerned you're going to try to keep it hot for the day meal. And stoking the coals would help for that. So therefore you cannot do it.
So basically, if you didn't do Shehiyah Hatmana, not in the right way, you can be pass on bishul also.
You can be what?
You can be all on bishul on Shabbos also.
Well, if it's not fully cooked and you stoke the coals, you'll be doing Bahavar and Bishul, of course. But that's true about Shehiyah too. I mean, if it's not fully cooked and you stoke it by Shehiyah, it's also both. Also, we're going to discuss that too. Okay. If he did do Hatmana in a thing that adds heat, the food is forbidden even b'diavad. That. Is it forbidden b'chtei sheyasa? Is that your question?
Hold on 1 second before you continue. You said that on Shehiyah, if I add something completely cooked, you're not afraid about Shehiyah because I'm not going to stop the cook because I don't want to have more heat, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So what's going to be the power to do it on
Because you're going to want to keep it hot for the next day. Shehiyah.
But it's going to begin like keeping it for the next day.
Yeah, but shehiyah is not going to stay out for the next day, even if you stoke.
Eventually, you're going to take it off, and it's going to be cool down. It's going to
Sorry?
because eventually with shehiyah, you're going to pull it off.
No, even if you leave it there, but it's going to die down for the next day. It's not going to help you. Stoking is not going to help you for the next day. But Hatmana,
It will be.
if you, even though it's fully cooked, you want it hot for the next day. You're cholent. You want it hot for the next day. You understand? So you may stoke.
Is there any difference between a law of Hatmana when something is under fire, something is off the fire? When it comes to Hatmana?
You're not using fire.
What do you mean Hatmana? Hatmana means insulated. You mean on the fire plus insulated?
That's not.
On the fire with a towel? Is that what you mean?
What would be the difference?
Hatmana,
Something that is off the fire, something that is still on the heat source.
so if you do a towel around a pot that's on the blech, that is called Hatmana b'davar ha'moisef hevel. Nowadays, it's very hard to find Hatmana b'davar ha'moisef hevel off the fire. We don't really deal with manure and with, decomposing olive pits.
So if you bring
and all that
something off
stuff.
the fire, let's say, and you want to keep it for another half an hour, and you cover it like with a good blanket, there's no problem.
If you do it before Shabbos or Bein Hashmashas.
During Shabbos.
During Shabbos is a problem. We just said that. You cannot do it even
You took it off.
exactly. You cannot do it.
But you just say that if it's out of the fire, no issue.
If it's off the fire, it's not moisiv hevel. It doesn't add heat. And you can do it before Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, we're concerned that you may reheat it if it's not hot enough. That's what we said from the Gemara.
But if you took it off the fire and you cover it, and you can't do the startup because you already let it go.
Exactly.
So why are they afraid they're going to be putting on the fire? Or they didn't have any mind to put it back?
Because we're afraid you might forget. If you remember, there would be nothing to worry about. The problem is you might forget. That's the problem. This whole thing is stoking. How are you going to stoke? It's Shabbos. Okay, you don't know it's Shabbos? Maybe you'll forget. That's the whole problem. Yes.
But there are permissible materials that you can do Hatmana with. Is this all about materials?
Permissible Hatmana, you can do
Permissible,
Hatmana
but
with. You're
materials
talking
that
about things that don't add heat or things that add
don't
heat?
add heat.
That don't add heat all before Shabbos.
all before.
All before Shabbos. On Shabbos, you can insulate it.
So how do you know that that's still not gonna be a problem with him forgetting and then using coals? Because he's making that distinction between materials that he
Because, exactly, things that don't add heat are not similar to coals. That's what it is. Understand?
Yeah, but so that how do we know what are going to be forbidden materials exactly?
Things that add heat and things that don't
I
add heat.
understand
Those are the
that,
categories.
But from a practical standpoint,
We're going to learn a list. The only example of something that adds heat that I can think of that's off of fire nowadays is an electric blanket, which I've never ever seen in Florida in my life. But in the north, they have something called electric blankets. So that's the only example I can think of a insulating and a thing that adds heat today.
Hot water
Yeah,
bottle.
but wait, if you plug this,
Water bottle doesn't add heat. It
Doesn't add
just
heat, it's just-
it
it's just
maintains heat.
maintained. So that'd be a good insulator.
Yeah, but it's just
let
maintained.
me ask you about that. It's not a muksa basically. It's plugged in. You're allowed to move it and throw it on top of your pot. It's not considered muksa.
I don't know if it's muktzah or not. I don't know.
Which item?
I don't know if an electric blanket is muktzah, but even if it is, you could put it in before Shabbos and you could just slide it out on Shabbos. That's Reish Nun Tes, the Siman that we're not going to learn. Is all about if you did Hatmana and something muktzah, how do you get it out?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, who knows? Shiach could come and then he'll tell us what to learn.
Was on 30 said?
Yes, that's Reish Nun Tes. Okay. Vidavka. Oh, you asked about B'chtei Sheyasa. Okay, so here in the New English Shulchan Aruch Harav, he says, see Ktsoisa Shulchan who maintains that on Saturday night one must wait until the food could have warmed B'chtei Sheyasa. Yeshua's Yaakov maintains the food is permitted immediately on Saturday night. It is interesting, by the way, because when I was reading the Mishnah just before in Lamed Ches Amud Beis, it doesn't say B'chtei Sheyasa. And here the Mechaber doesn't say it. The Magen Avraham doesn't say it. The Alter Rebbe doesn't say it. So it seems like just from simple reading is that it does not have to wait B'chtei Sheyasa. Why not? I don't know. Because all the other things that are forbidden on Erev Shabbos, actually this is even forbidden on Shabbos. Maybe that's the difference. Although Chazar is also forbidden on Shabbos, it's forbidden B'chtei Sheyasa. The reason, if you remember, why we said that you have to wait B'chtei Sheyasa if you do a forbidden Shehiyah or forbidden Chazar is because these are things that people take lightly. And the Chachamim therefore wanted to make sure he wouldn't take it lightly. So they wanted to punish him extra. So maybe Hatmana they weren't taking lightly. I don't know, I'm just guessing.
By the way, it's only curation.
Yes, we're going to see more about that later.
I took this food,
Put in a cliche, you could do it more.
so I can be able to cover it good. Even if the davar mosif hevel or still.
No, but in davar she'eino moisef hevel. You can do it in a davar she'eino moisef hevel on Shabbos.
So davar mosif hevel, regardless it's curation, curation, shlishi.
Yeah, because it's not.
Still cooking.
It's going to become a kli rishon.
You're still,
Moisef
it's still
hevel.
cooking.
You're adding heat.
You're adding heat. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. The point is, the davka betzonen sheneschamim. This is only if it was cold, something cold that became hot. I'm in Sif Aleph in the Mechaber. Oishin and Stam Yafalayor, it got better. But if it stayed in the same heat, then it's permissible. Okay, listen carefully to this. In order for something to become forbidden, we have to forbid a particular benefit that you received. So when we say if you did a forbidden hatmana in a thing that maintained the heat, I mean, what did you accomplish? You didn't add anything. You can't forbid something you didn't add. So therefore, it's only forbidden if you did add heat. If you did a forbidden hatmana in a thing that adds heat, and it was mitztamek v'yafaloi, tasted better, right? Or, one more time, what did the Mechaber say? Or if it was cold and you heated it up, you did hatmana in a thing that adds heat, so it went from cold to hot. All of those are a benefit that the Chachamim forbade you to have. However, if it was already hot and it did not get any hotter and it was not mitztamek v'yafaloi, then it's not forbidden. Even if you did it in a forbidden way, you understand? Because you did it on Shabbos, or you did it from before Shabbos and davar moisef, but it didn't actually get any hotter, or it got hotter, but it was mitztamek v'raloi, it was just tasting worse, then it's not going to be forbidden because there's no benefit. Understand? Okay. V'yesh oimrim, some say, comes along the Ramah and says, D'im shachach v'hitmin b'shoigig b'davar moisef hevel, shori lecha. If by mistake you did atmana in something that adds heat, it's okay. But the Yevad will give you a pass. Now, what is the reason for this? The Mishnah says clearly the men of Tveria did this, and the Chachamim were very down on them. And it doesn't even seem like the men of Tveria knew they were doing anything wrong. They found out later. So what's the reason for this leniency? So there's two explanations of this. The Taz says that the Ramah is talking about a case where he did it in ashes, and he didn't realize there were some coals in the ashes. You understand? It's not that he forgot about these halachas and he did it in actual moisef hevel. No, he knew the halacha. And he did it in ashes, and they were mostly ashes. It turns out there was one or two coals in them. Okay. That's not a real hatmana b'davar moisef hevel. That's okay. And according to this, by the way, it's not a machlokes. The Mechaber would agree to this too. Ramah is just adding that example. So when he says b'shoigig, he did it in a davar moisef hevel, he means it wasn't really moisef hevel, just a little bit of hevel, and he didn't even realize that little bit, so that's when he allows it. The Magen Avraham has a whole different take, And to understand the Magen Avraham, we have to go back to Reish Nun Gimel, because if you remember there, we had an opinion that says if you did a forbidden shehiyah, b'shoigeg, we had an opinion that says if it was already fully cooked, you can eat it.
And there's nothing else to eat, no?
No, that's Reish Nun Dalet. That's Reish Nun Dalet. That's a heter. That's another heter. In Reish Nun Gimel, we said if you did a forbidden shehiyah by accident, and it was already fully cooked, even though it tasted better, we'll let you benefit. Because the difference, it's already cooked, it's a little bit better, big deal. It's no big deal. Now, Lamai said we didn't rely on that unless it's for other people. For him, you didn't cook it. That was the halacha back in Reish Nun Gimel. That was the Magen Avraham. He made a balancing act. We have this heter, that is Mastam Hu Yafaleh. So it's not such a benefit. We have another heter, some say for other people you can benefit. So we'll put it together. And we'll say if it was by accident and it was already fully cooked, except that it was getting better, other people that you didn't cook it for can eat it. That's as far as we went with that heter. But here we're using that same concept. The Ramah at least is quoting that same concept, saying that is not such a significant benefit. It's already fully cooked, tastes a little bit better, big deal. Plus it was an accident, it's okay. So the Ramah is quoting that opinion. Yeshayim, some say, here comes the Rashbam that I told you about before, that says that Shehiyah and Hatmana have the same rules. Yeshayim Chol Zayin Yasel L'Kshoyis L'Tzerach Laila. Avak Shemam L'Tzerach Mocha Motor L'Hatmin Bo Yoyim B'Davar Shemaisav Hevel. Okay, this is not exactly the Rashbam, but it's more or less along the same lines. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, my friends. The way we explained the issue of Hatmana B'Davar Ma'asev Hevel is that when it's for the next day, it's worse.
But he said you could.
1 second. For the next day, it's worse because that's exactly the problem. Because for the next day, even if it's fully cooked, we're still concerned and want to keep it hot. That's what most Rishonim hold. However, based on the Rashbam, which we said,
Who was saying that you're allowed to?
he quotes the Shivlei Aleket. Shiboilei Aleket, sorry.
So he's the one that saying that you're allowed to really go at Mana
For the next day, correct. So it's based on the Rashbam's logic. Again, the Rashbam said that Davram...
Only for the next day, not for the night.
Correct. It's based on the Rashbam. The Rashbam said that Shehiyah and Hatmana are really the same. One of the same. So, according to him, there's no reason to be any stricter with Hatmana than we are with Shehiyah. Now, going back to Shehiyah, if you remember, we said that the reason that raw meat is okay is because you can't eat it till the next day anyway, and by the time the next day comes, you don't have to stoke it, it's going to be ready for sure. Using that concept, Shiboilei Aleket says, well, even if it's not raw, but if you decide that I don't want to eat it till the next day, that's enough.
Even if you change your mind.
He's not concerned.
You're short of food, so that you have.
He's not concerned.
You need the food now.
He's not concerned. We're not geyser. We don't make exer.
But before he said we did exer on exer.
Chazal make exer on exer, not us. You understand?
Yeah.
Chazal do. So he says this was not included in the exer. When the Gemara says that a kedera chaisa is mutter, that a raw meat is mutter, because for the next day, it didn't just mean raw meat. It meant anything that's for the next day. It's a chiddush. It's not the simple pshat. It's a chiddush. So this is like 2 steps. You have to take 2 steps to get this Ramah. Step number 1 is that this is following the opinion that Shehiyah and Hatmana are the same. Step number 2 is, even for Shehiyah, the only problem is if it's for the nighttime, so we're concerned you might stoke and get it ready. But if it's for the daytime, even though it could be made for the nighttime, but if you decide that it's for the daytime, it's okay. According to this opinion, by the way, the whole Reish Nun Gimel has to be rewritten, You have to put in a little asterisk in Reish Nun Gimel wherever it says forbidden Shehiyah. By the way, that's only for the nighttime, not for the daytime. You understand? This opinion goes back to Reish Nun Gimel too. It holds that all the rules about Shehiyah and now all the rules of Hatmana are only if you're going to do it for the night, not for the day. Exactly. Now, the Ramah says, the Ramah says, listen, this is not a real main opinion. So you can't rely on it regularly, even b'diavad. If it happens once or twice, okay, b'diavad will let you rely on it. L'chatchila for sure not. And if you do it on a regular basis, also not, even b'diavad. But if it happens here or there that you did it, we'll let you rely on it.
Where does he equate Hatmana and Shehiyah?
Where does he what, sorry?
Where does he equate the two?
He doesn't. The Rashbam
So
does. He is springboarding off the Rashbam. You have a big Shulchan Aruch, Yosef?
Mishnah Berurah.
Okay, I don't have the Mishnah Berurah in front of you, but in front of me. But the Magen Avraham explains, and Ches, perhaps the Mishnah Berurah brings him, he holds like the opinion of Siv Zayin that Kamachal ben Rasoy is mutter, meaning to say like the Rashbam that says all the leniencies of Shehiyah apply to Hatmana. And based on that, he says, then he says, when you do it for the next day, and it's anyone you're going to cook, so it's allowed also. So the Magen Avraham makes the connection. All right?
Yeah.
Very good.
It's hardly a Shulchan Aruch, right? It's hardly like a table that's completely set if you have to be medayik in it like that, right?
Well, the Shulchan Aruch is a set table for eating. It's not a set table for people who want to figure out how the food was cooked. When my wife goes to a restaurant, she's always trying to detect the flavors and say, well, what are the ingredients of this? I wonder how they made it. She doesn't ask the chef because they probably, have proprietary recipes. But that's the point of the Shulchan Aruch. It tells you exactly what to do. Now, why? That's not the Shulchan Aruch's business, so to speak. So it's telling you the halacha. The halacha is it's okay for the next day. Why is that? The Magen Avraham explains why. You understand?
But Shehiyah being okay for the next day, right? That was mashma from this comparison. That's not in there, right?
That's not in there either. No, the fact that it applies back to Shehiyah is not in there. It is interesting, actually. By the way, why does the Ramban not bring this by Shehiyah? That is Lemaisa. You understand what I'm saying? That's not just a theory. That has a practical application. That Shehiyah for the next day, you could also rely on this, b'diavad. So why does he not bring it? Yeah, in that sense, it is not such a set table. You have to figure it out. That's true. Yes.
If you take mid-side aluminum can, it's on the black with food. And then you take in empty, larger side aluminum can and you cover it upside down.
And the purpose of covering?
Just so it's not going to get cold or kill it because the AC is too strong. I don't know, whatever it is, you're allowed to. The small one is bigger. You're allowed to.
If it's not touching on the sides, it's going to be okay.
Even so that you know that
It's not touching on the sides, it's okay.
it's not going to touch, but it's much bigger.
Like the sun, it's okay.
So there's no problem to do that.
It's like an oven. It's like a mini oven.
Even you're allowed to put it on during Shabbos. During Shabbos, let's say the AC is too strong and you don't want to. You're allowed to, or there's any.
I mean, I don't see why not. If it's fully cooked, it's not called Hatmana. So what is it called? I don't know.
No, I'm just asking if there's no problem.
I'm just saying it doesn't seem to fall under any of the categories. It's not Shehiyah, it's not Chazara, it's not Hatmana, it's not Bishul, it's not Mechzik Mavashal. That's not how you cook. I don't see it being a problem. So it would seem. So it would seem. Okay. I'm going to go further in the Machaber before we do the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Two more seifim. Afilu tafshish nesbashel kol tzorek also latin m'Shabbos. Machaber beis. Even a cooked food that was fully cooked, also latin m'Shabbos. You're not allowed to do Hatmana on Shabbos. Afilu b'davar she'nei moisev hevel, even if no heat is added. Like we said before, the rules of Hatmana and Shehiyah are different. The fact is it's fully cooked. But on Shabbos, if you do Hatmana with it, you may reheat it, which is forbidden if it's liquid. Or even if it's solid, you may stoke the coals to reheat it. To cover it, to save it from the mice, to protect it from the mice. Or that it shouldn't get dirty from dirt that might fall into it, is allowed. That's not like Hatmana to keep it hot. That's like covering a pot. When you cover the pot with its cover, nobody calls that Hatmana. Yes? That's just covering the pot. So the same thing here.
So these are all, just all the halacha for the Hatmana. This refers to when since it's on the fire, it's on the fire. It doesn't matter. It's the same halachas, yeah?
Hatmana, when it's on the fire, it's going to be moisev hevel. If it's off the fire nowadays, we don't really have moisev hevel, so it's going to be not moisev hevel. But still, on Shabbos, you can't do it not moisev hevel either.
So that's the Machaber we're talking about. It doesn't say if it's when it's on the fire or off the fire. So it's the same halachas, basically. What you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, same halachos. If it's moisev hevel, on or off the fire, it's a problem. If it's not moisev hevel, so then on Shabbos it's a problem anyway, even off the fire. Okay. These are the things that add heat. The leftover junk of olives when you press it to make oil. Of sesame. Vezevel, manure, melach, salt, sid, lime, choil, sand, whether these things are moist or dry. And the following things only if they're wet: straw and grape peels and moichem, which are materials like tufts of material, and grasses. When these are wet, these four things, it says three, but the Taz explains it's really four. When these things are wet, they decompose. And the decomposition creates a natural heat. So that's what we're talking about.
So basically, this is, if you have a bunch of huts on the black, so basically they shouldn't touch each other, no?
No, they can touch each other. Just a little bit here and there.
So if like you have like, let's say 5 parts and one in the middle, 4 around it,
No.
it's going to take the weight.
It's not Hatmana. Hatmana is like hugging the sides. Not pots which touch a little bit on the curve. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay.
So the decomposition of this stuff gives off heat.
It gives off heat,
Chemical
yeah.
reaction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Potential energy into heat.
Yeah. That's what it is. Actually, the Gemara has a discussion. Perhaps it's only when these things are naturally moist. So then it's a much bigger decomposition than if you just wet them. But the Machaber doesn't differentiate, so it seems like he's...
In our time to pass some on the front of the Shabbos, the shoulder.
I'm sorry?
In our time, how a person can do a Hatmana of the shoulder.
Sure. You're talking about moisef hevel or not moisef hevel?
You said that we have nothing but moisef ever in our time.
Moist, the only example we may have,
It's a
towel on the blech, even that there's different opinions about, but towel on the blech. As far as Non-moist hevel, very simple. Pillows, blankets. By on the blach. Taking a hot pot of soup, putting it in pillows and blankets. It's allowed before Shabbos, not allowed on Shabbos.
Even if it's off the
Plata, whatever. Even if it's off. Can't do it on Shabbos. You can do it before Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. Or you can even do it ben hashmashot. Shabbos just started a few minutes ago.
and just rub it and leave it.
Towels, whatever.
So, number one, I sometimes aware, there's like the hot water for Shabbos, there's a special cover for it.
Oh yeah,
So
somebody asked me about that. Yeah,
and so this is a complete Hatmana, no?
somebody asked me about that last time. Yeah, it seems to be a problem. I don't know what the heter for that is.
Also something to the shows the cover here, how the or just keep it warm.
Seems like a problem. Maybe there's a
Even if I keep
way.
this covered all week like this, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't make it like hard of it.
Doesn't matter. Still part. It's part of it that keeps it hot. Maybe in the course of the Siman we'll come across some lenient position that helps us. But at this moment, I can't think of it. Okay. Hevel is an example of things that do not add heat. Ksus, garments. Peres, fruit. Kanfeyoina, wings of a dove. Asharnets or other feathers. Onoyer shall pishton. And flax, what is it called? The iris. It's like the waste product of flax when you make linen out of it. When it says shel and sawdust. Now, the Ramah says, some say you can insulate in rocks because that's not a usual way to insulate, and therefore, even if it successfully insulates, it's so unusual the Chum did not make a decree against it. Alter was going to explain more.
The rock can get very hot from the sun.
Alter was going to explain more. That even if it's effective, but people don't usually do it because they're afraid their pot is going to break or whatever. So they did make the decree. Okay, with no further ado, we begin the Alter Rebbe on Reish Nun Zayin. Habal l'salek kedera me'al gabi kiro la'atmina. Sorry, a person who wants to take the pot off the kira, off the stove.
I want to ask you, why did the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe and the Mechaber at the beginning of this same Siman, but talking like a different subject? The Mechaber talking about Ento ben B'Shabbat or the Insulating, like.
That's not a question. The Alter Rebbe was writing it in his language. The Machaber was writing in his language. The Alter Rebbe never claimed to be rewriting the Shulchan Aruch. He's writing on the same topic as the Shulchan Aruch. Every Siman is the same topic, but he doesn't always follow the same order. Certainly not the same language. One thing about
Siman Aleph by the Alter Rebbe doesn't have to be Siman Aleph by.
No. Every Siman is on the same topic. You understand? But
let's say, Seif Aleph,
No.
it would be Seif Aleph.
No, Seif Aleph does not have to be Seif Aleph.
So, but I think it would be the same Siman.
Same Siman, yeah. In Seif Aleph, sometimes, by the way, the Alter Rebbe does something that the Mechaber does not do, which is he'll give a little introduction. He'll give a little introduction to the material that we're about to learn about. You know what I mean? Which the Mechaber doesn't usually do. Like we said before, the Mechaber tells you what to do. He doesn't give the background or the reasons behind it. So that's something the Alter Rebbe does. Okay. Person who wants to insulate a pot that he took off the stove in order that it shouldn't get hot. You're not allowed to insulate it in something that adds heat, even from before Shabbos. It's a decree that he may insulate it in coals. Actually, Remetz says coals mixed with ashes. And then on Shabbos, you may forget and stoke those coals. If he transgressed and he did Hatmana, even by accident, the food is forbidden, whether for him or for others. By the way, that's a chiddush, him or others. We didn't see that in the Machaber, but that's what we said in Rishon and Gimel about forbidden Shehiyah, and we're applying that here too. Ad l'motzei Shabbos nafsa Shabbos. If it's tasting better, I should say, or if it got heated. But if it maintains its heat and it's tasting worse, it's permissible because he's not getting any benefit from the violation. You cannot do the Hatmana even if it's getting shrunken through the continual cooking. Now he has to explain why it's different than Shehiyah. By Shehiyah, we said it's allowed if it's Misamach Ra'alai according to all opinions. And here it's not allowed. Why? Yeah, it's not like Shehiyah, which you're allowed to do, even on a kir that the heat is not covered, as long as it was cooked, while it was still day. Here's the answer. Because ordinarily, the way they used to do Hatmana is that it was for the next day. You're covering it and insulating so it shouldn't cool off till the next day. Therefore, it needs more stoking so it shouldn't cool off at night. However, the regular Shehiyah is for the nighttime. 1 second. And therefore, because you're leaving it uncovered, you don't need to stoke it for the night meal if it was already cooked on Friday. Even if you're leaving for the next day, there's no problem of stoking. Because a little bit of stoking is not going to help you keep it hot till the next day since it's not insulated. But if it is insulated, then even a little bit of stoking will help. Therefore, we say you cannot put it in coals and ashes because you may stoke it. And they included any kind of thing that adds heat because of remets. Even if you are doing Hatmana for the nighttime, and for the night meal it's going to be ready without stoking, like we said before, doesn't need stoking. Nevertheless, Hatmana is forbidden across the board. Yes.
Let's say if the guest is a Jew, maybe you're not coming to get Hatmana to your pot because it was afraid it's going to get cold, or your goy did Hatmana to your pot without your knowledge. Is this food going to be asur?
We discussed that in Reish Nun Gimel, and we said that a goy doesn't have the power to make it forbidden against your will. No, we just said about Shehiyah, Chazorah actually, but it would seem to be the same if it was already fully cooked. If it was cooked by the goy, then it's a problem. Besides the Bishalaka problem, it's just the fact is that he accomplished something. You understand? Which you didn't have until then.
It's on the fire. Let's say it was did Hatmana something that already on the fire.
So it's already cooked, you're saying?
Could be cooked, we said it could be a bit very raw. So,
Yeah, but if it wasn't cooked yet, then it could be a problem because he changed it significantly. If he did a Hatmana with Davar Hevel and that's how it cooked, even though
but it's already the fact already exists.
I understand. I'm not talking about Bishal Akum. I'm not talking about Bishal Akum. I'm talking about the fact that he changed it. When we say you can't make something forbidden, it's because he didn't change it. He just kept it hot or maybe tasted a little bit better. If he actually cooked it, then it's like something new which he accomplished. I don't think that there was we didn't see a heter for that. No, not Bishal Akum. Shoot with the fire. It's not a Bishal Akum issue. Yeah, it's like Bishal B'Shabbos, similar to that.
And if a Jew did it, the guest did it on his own.
Forbidden.
For everybody?
Oh, how does it work? How does he have the right to make it forbidden?
Or it's going to be just forbidden for the guest? Or to everybody? Actually, הוא עושה דבר שלא שלו.
We had a question about that in Rabbi Kiva Eger. If you remember Reish Nun Gimel, when you take it off, when he takes it off, he has the kavana, another kavana, put it down, whatever. Rabbi Kiva Eger had a question, and he said that with Maisa, with action, a person can make something of somebody else forbidden. With machshava, maybe not. So over there, it's all in the mind. Do you mean to put it back or not? See what I'm saying? So there, you can't make somebody else's thing forbidden. But if you do a Maisa, Rabbi Kiva Eger said you could. Remember? So based on that, it would be else over here. Yeah, he did an action. He did an action. That's just based on Rabbi Kiva Eger. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I would say. Okay. Umitam zeh, for this reason. It's very quiet out in LA, New York, and Aventura.
Who's in LA?
And Daniel Rum.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here. I'm just reading.
All right, as long as you're with us.
Okay.
Excellent. We are on page 246, if you have the printed book of the Alter Rebbe, on the bottom. Umitam zeh, for this reason, also lahatmana afilu basar shu chai legamri samal chashecha. Alf bishmut lashes lefish mesiach daita min ala machar. Now the Alter Rebbe addresses the question of raw meat. For this reason, now to do Hatmana, even with meat that is totally raw, next to dark, even though you're allowed to do shehiyah, because you forget about it till the next day. It could cook the whole night without stoking. And to keep it hot for the next day is not going to happen even if you stoke it because it's uncovered. How about money? When it comes to Hatmana, we're afraid that he may stoke after you finish cooking it to keep it hot so it shouldn't cool down. Because a little bit of stoking will help for this. Some argue on this. Here comes the Rashbam. Ladies and gentlemen, when they say, if it's cooked like Machal Ben Rusai, it's okay for Hatmana too. Or it's totally raw. Like you're allowed to do it in the case of Shehiyah. Here's a perfect example, by the way, Ronnie, how we see the Alter Rebbe changes the language, the order of the Machaber. The Machaber doesn't bring in this whole concept about Shehiyah being like Hatmana, maybe, which is what Rashbam holds until Seif Zayin. But the Ramah here in Seif Aleph uses that idea to say that maybe if you did Hatmana for the next day, it's mutter, which is based on something we didn't learn yet. The Magen Avraham makes the connection. The Alter Rebbe puts it right in here. He starts with that before he gets to the chiddush of doing Hatmana for the next day being allowed. First he starts with the basic chiddush. The rules of Shehiyah perhaps can be applied to Hatmana, some say. And then we're going to take it one step further and say even if just in your mind you decide for the next day, maybe it's allowed. In a place where they are lenient like this opinion, you don't have to protest. Other places should not be lenient. Now here's the next step. Some are more lenient. Even if it's not raw, near dark. If he removes his mind from it until the next day, it's as if it's raw. You could do Hatmana for the next day, even though it did not reach Machman Rusoi. You show them this, but eventually your glasses came, as long as you don't do it in a regular way. So notice how this last opinion drops down in terms of reliance. The Rashbam, if you have the minhag, it's okay. If somebody else has the minhag, don't bother them. But just don't institute it in other places. But here, this one, which takes it to the next level and says, just because you decide you're not having until the next day is enough to make it permissible. Here he doesn't say you don't protest. And he doesn't say you can rely on a b'diavad either on a regular basis. B'diavad, on a non-regular basis, that's the only heter he gives. Because this is a very big stretch. I'm sorry?
What is the first megula? The fire is megula?
No. The pot. The pot that is shehiyah without hatmana is megula. It sits on the fire, on the stove top, but it's not surrounded. Okay, moving right along in the Alter Rebbe Shabbos Atzma Siv Beis on Shabbos itself. Aser lahatmin chamin. Afilu b'am shen roisiv hevel. It's forbidden to do hatmana with hot. It's forbidden to insulate something hot, even if something does not add heat. Even though it's nothing like remetz at all, because it does not add heat. So why did they forbid it? Maybe he'll find that the pot is too cold when he wants to take it off the oven and put it in something that does not add heat. He'll forget it's Shabbos, and he'll boil it on the fire. And he will be chayiv because of bishul. This is what I was quoting before from the Beis Yosef. According to those that say that there is no bishul when something liquid is cooked and reheated, that's the opinion of the Rambam, which is not the min halacha, but nevertheless, what the Rambam says is the problem with hatmana. If hatmana may lead to reheating, but there's no problem with reheating, he's afraid that he may stoke the coals to reheat it and become chai for igniting. Aval, however, in the in-between time of ben hashmashas, even though it is possibly dark, you're allowed to do hatmana in something that does not add heat. Most pots are still hot ben hashmashas. Or that's when people take it off the fire. And we're not concerned that maybe it cooled down already and I'll have to reheat it. Gimel, yes. האש. Or זה כמו האש, כן. He translates or here. Fire. He translates it as fire. Siv Gimel, afilu tafshel, a special called circle in the stomach of Rala, even though it's fully cooked, and it is, and cooking it more makes it worse. You cannot do hatmana at night, even if something does not have heat. Because the fact is, at this moment, you want to keep it hot. Even though it's Mustam Rala, you want to keep it hot. And if it's not hot enough, you may still boil it again. Dalet. It's forbidden to cover a kli over a hot pot to keep it warm. If the entire pot is enveloped by it, unless it's a broad keli, so that the sides are not touching the pot. Then it's not called hatmana, like Ronnie was asking before. If you're covering the little pot with a big pot that doesn't touch the sides, it's no problem. If, however, you're covering it in such a way that it touches the sides, then it's a problem. Then you have no hatmana. You're allowed to cover it to protect it from mice, so it shouldn't get dirty from dirt. Because it's not like hatmana to reheat. Rather, it's like protecting it and covering the pot.
Yeah, in this case, it's almost like, he's not going to, since he knows he's doing it for this, he's not going to forget and heat it up.
He's not going to forget one more time, I'm sorry?
He's not going to forget and heat it up because he's covering it to keep it protected.
Exactly.
So it's kind of almost like Messiah Daito in a different twist.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point. When he's not doing the action for the sake of heating it, so we're not concerned that it's going to reheat it because the heating it is not the issue. Very good. Now, one point that's a little bit difficult for me to get is what he says, that if you cover a kli with another kli, and it's kula tmuna tachtav, it's very difficult for the walls of a pot to really hug another pot. You know what I mean? I mean, you'd have to have like interlocking pots. You know what I mean?
The handle get in the way.
The handles get in the way, even if there's no handles. It's just like
Right,
it's. I mean, there'll be some point of contact, but not much. So I don't know exactly what he means. But there's an interesting note here in 23. I'm just going to read note 23. In his Kuntrus Achen and his summary of laws of Shiva Hatmana that appears after section 259, I'll have emphasize that the concept of Hatmana does not apply unless the walls of a pot are entirely covered. In Madura Basra, he emphasized the fundamental aspect of Hatmana Dovashen and Moisiv Hevel is covering the opening of the pot. Based on those statements, Badei Shulchan suggests that even covering just the top of a kos pot with the container can be considered as a Hatmana. All right? So that's something that is worth noting. The Badei Shulchan says that based on the final analysis of the Alter Rebbe, Hatmana with Davar Moisiv Hevel is defined as covering the top, even just insulating the top. So if you have a chicken soup, you want to keep it hot, you can't even just put a towel just on the top. As far as the Shulchan Aruch is concerned, you can't. Right? Only it's on the sides also, it's a problem. But in the Madur Bas, in the final version of the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe seems to pull back on that and say even just the top is a problem. Something to bear in mind. All right, Sif Hey. Elu Haim, Dvarim HaVasifim Hevel. The following things add heat. Soiles Shel Zaysim, the waste of olives. V'Shel Shumshim or sesame, Lachas Yusham, then after you crushed the oil out of them. The Zevel, fertilizer, Melech, salt, Sid, lime, Choil, sand, whether they are, I skipped melech, salt, whether they are moist or dry. When it comes to straw and zagan, which are the waste of grapes after you press them for wine, as well as material. Any soft materials included in this category of moichin, for example, cotton, soft wool of an animal, or the shredded remnants of worn-out garments. Va'asavman grass. If those four are moist, even if they're moist from water that fell on them. All of that is not considered to add heat. Sorry, all of those are considered to add heat. If they are the last four, if they are moist. However, all kinds of garments, fruit, feathers of any birds, thin scraps of flax, sawdust, leather, right, skins of the animals, whether they're processed into leather or not, as well as shearings of sheep, all of those, they do not add heat. These are the examples. Safe love, moving right along.
But you still cannot do Hatmana with them in certain cases. Is that
on Shabbos? That's the case. On Shabbos,
on Shabbos you can't do it, but you could use any of these things before Shabbos to do Hatmana.
Correct. Before Shabbos or even in Bein Hashmashos.
Or Bein Hashmashos, because they don't add heat.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Sivav. Eifresh engachal muravim boy.
So a blanket that's made from feathers of chickens.
Feathers are okay from before Shabbos, yes. On Shabbos, no. Before Shabbos, yes. But it doesn't have to be made of feathers. The same thing applies if it's made of cotton or wool or anything. Efer, ashes, even if there is no coals mixed in with them, even if it is moist, even if it is hot, is not considered to add heat. Right? Ashes are just ashes. They don't add heat. If you did it in ashes, this is exactly the case that Taz discussed. You thought it was just ashes. Comes along Shabbos, you come to take it out, and you see there's a few coals in there. Unless a tasha but it's okay. Because the main atmona wasn't permissible stuff, which is the ashes. So the one or two coals are not going to turn the whole thing into being forbidden. You're allowed to insulate a pot with stones from before Shabbos, even if they add heat. Right? They can add heat, I guess, if they're heated from the sun or whatever. It's a very unusual thing because they can break the pot. In those days, the pots were not very strong, and they could literally break the pots. Or they could ruin the food. One second, let me just finish that. Anything that's not usual, the Chacham did not decree. But anything that you would sometimes use for insulation, even though it's not so common, Chacham decreed not to insulate in it if it does add heat. Yes?
It's only if the whole side of the pot covered, or if you should cover only half of it.
In the Madur Basra, the Alter Rebbe holds a majority of the sides. In the Shulchan Aruch, he holds the top and the sides. But I think so. I think so in the Shulchan Aruch. But in the Madur Basra, he holds a majority of the sides is enough. The Davar HaMoisef Hevel. Davar HaMoisef Hevel goes by the sides, and it's a majority of the sides. Davar She'enu Moisef Hevel is just the top, according to Madur Basra. Just the top. Yeah, the reason for the difference is very simple. When it comes to something that's maintaining heat, the main thing is the top, because that's where the heat escapes. When it comes to adding heat, so you want it on the sides. The top, what's the top going to help? It's just going to go up. You want it on the side, so it heats up from the sides all the way in. You understand what I'm saying?
I got a question.
Yes.
Based on what we saw in Sif Gimel, yeah, I'm a little far behind. Sorry. If you would take the pot of chicken soup off of the fire Friday night, and then you ladle out some soup, can you put that the top back on? It seems like you can't.
Yeah,
because the pot itself would be insulated. You can't.
You can. You can.
How? I don't know. It seems from. I don't know.
The actual pot cover is there for multiple purposes. It's there to protect things from falling into it. And incidentally, it also protects the heat.
Okay, even though we don't have mice and stuff.
Well, we have stuff. We have flies. I mean, we have stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, let us continue in the Machaber. And we have time for one more mini topic. And that is the question of Chazora behatmana. In Siman Reish Nun Gimel, we learned all about Chazora of Shehiyah. And of course, we said you can do Chazora with Shehiyah if you keep certain conditions. Right?
If you take something from Hatmana and you want to be put back?
Back with Hatmana, correct.
But
you cannot go from Hatmana to Shehiyah.
Before Shabbos.
Yes.
So now if you put it back, depends. You're going to be talking as like on Shabbos now.
Well, you're continuing the same thing you had before. Here's the thing. When it comes to Shehiyah, the issue with Chazara is it considered like a new Shehiyah or not? Is it going to be a new Shehiyah? Then it's Mechzik and Mavashal, it looks like cooking. When it comes to Hatmana, we have a similar question. Is it considered like a new Hatmana? And a new Hatmana is also because you may reheat it, right? If it's Eina Moisiv. or you may stoke the coals, whatever. Actually, I take it back. If it's adding heat, you can't do it even from 4 Shabbos. You may reheat it is the question. So that's the question. Do we apply, what rules do we apply to Chazorah of Hatmana? You took it out of the insulation, you want to put it back in. Or you took out the insulation off of it, and you want to put it back. So we're going to see actually it's pretty lenient compared
The
to,
installation move together with the pot, just remember.
well, then there's no issue.
So it's different.
Then there's no issue. Talking about if you took it off, you want to put it back. So we're going to see it's actually much more lenient than Chazar of Shehiyah. Because we're going to see you don't have to keep all these conditions or whatever. And the concept is that the Chazar of Shehiyah is a much more strict thing. Because if you do a new Shehiyah, it mamish looks like cooking. You understand? You're doing an action that looks like cooking. Over here, you're not doing anything that looks like cooking. You're not actually cooking. I mean, you can't cook by insulating, really. Talking about insulating and something that does not add heat. So what are you doing already? Maybe, okay, but because it's a continuation, even though you don't have all the conditions, it is a continuation. That's enough for us to know that you're not going to reheat it. All lo mosif. If it's mosif you can't have it in the first place. So of course you can't return it.
So basically it's going to be back to fire.
Let's see. No. Lo mosif. Back to the blankets.
So where's the azara? Something that
Back to the blankets.
because of the fire.
Back to the blankets, not to the fire. There's no davar amoisif hevel on the fire. On the fire is shehiyah, not atmana.
Even if you have that mana,
Atmana on the fire is moisif hevel. That's not allowed. And atmana she'eni moisif hevel is not on the fire, so there's no way. Okay, Siv Dalet in the Machaber. Even though you can't do Hatmana on Shabbos, even in something that's not at heat. If you did Hatmana on Friday, and it got uncovered at night, so you can put it back. Now here it sounds like if it got.
This is not azara. This is that you're fixing that man.
I understand. It's the same concept. Putting the pot in the blankets, the blankets in the pot. Same thing. It's allowed. Now in the Machaber, it sounds like it fell off, kind of not on purpose. But now he continues and he says, if you can add it to the Hatmana. And you can take the Hatmana off and put a different one on. Where the first is hotter or the second one is hotter. It was only covered with a sheet. You can cover with a blanket. Who, listen carefully, there called sarka. This is all if it was fully cooked. But if it's not fully cooked, you cannot add on the cover because this addition is going to cause it to cook. Now, the Magen Avraham says, how's it going to cause it to cook if it just maintains the heat? It does not add to the heat. He says, talking about when it's on the coals and you have a towel that is not directly over the sides. So it's still like Hatmana, but not actual Hatmana. So it's adding heat, but without a way of Hatmana.
So this is saying you can add more once it's fully cooked and it's on the. If it's fully cooked and it's on the heat and it already has Hatmana, you can add a lot more Hatmana to it. You can add a lot more insulation.
Well, the simple thing is he's talking about not on the fire. He's talking about if it's just in towel and you want to add more towels. The Magen Avraham adds another point that even if it's on the fire, but the towels that are around it are not insulating it because they are kind of draped over it in a way that they don't hug the sides. So that's another aspect that he's talking about here, and that would also be allowed to add to that also, yeah.
But if it was already on the fire, it fell off or you took it off, you can always put it back on. Is that what we said?
The fire is a shehiyah question. and we had all the conditions to be able to put it back on the fire. You had it in mind, you had it in your hands, and whatever it is. So, I mean, we didn't really discuss falling off, but I mean, if it falls off, it's on the ground, so it's not certainly not in your hands. On the other hand, you didn't take it off on purpose, so there might be room for leniency there.
But isn't that what the first sentence of the Sif Dalet said?
No, it's not talking about on the fire. It's talking about if the towel fell off. It wasn't on the fire. The towel fell off. You're allowed to put the towel back on.
Okay, so Sif Dalet has nothing, is all not on the fire.
The simple reading of Siddhartha is not on the fire. The very last line, where it says you cannot add Hatmana if it's not fully cooked, the Magen Avraham says, well, this can't be talking about off the fire. Because off the fire, you can't cook by adding anything. So therefore, he says that it's talking about when it's off the fire, when it's on the fire, and you're adding a towel without it actually being insulating.
Okay.
Okay. Let us learn the Alter Rebbe on this. Sivchas. If you did Hatmana from Friday in something that does not add heat, when it became uncovered on Friday, whether it happened on its own, whether it happened on its own or you did it on purpose. He was planning to do it, to put it back in. Also, you cannot recover it at night. Because that's like a new Hatmana. Because in the beginning of Shabbos, it was uncovered. This is a new halacha that is not in the Mechaber. A new case the Alter Rebbe is bringing in. The Mechaber discussed if it fell off on Shabbos, or if he took it off on Shabbos, or if he wanted to add to it on Shabbos. The Alter Rebbe is saying, what if it was insulated before Shabbos, and before Shabbos it came off, and I wants to put it back on Shabbos? That's no good. That's not allowed. If you remember, we had a similar question in the case of Shehiyah, where the Ran said if you took it off before Shabbos, you can put it back on Shabbos with all the conditions of Chazar. But here there are no conditions of Shehiyah, of Hatmana. So once it fell off, Shabbos came in, it was off, you can't put it back on, even if it fell off on purpose, by accident, excuse me. But if it was insulated when Shabbos came in and then it became uncovered, whether it happened on its own or he did it purposefully, even though he didn't intend to put it back, he can do it even in the first place. So here's, by the way, we see the leniency of Chazor to Hatmana. You don't have to have in mind to put it back. Even if you were specifically intending not to put it back. If you change your mind, you could still put the towel back. So too, if you wanted to add other things that do not add heat, on Shabbos you can add. You want to switch the covers for a different one. Hotter ones, colder ones, whatever. And even if it was only covered with a sheet, you could take the sheet and cover it with a blanket. Which is called circa, that's all if it was fully cooked. It's called circa, but if it was not fully cooked, and it was on the kira, which has coals of in the way that we're going to explain, meaning to say, even on top of coals, you can insulate without insulating by draping something wide over the pot and hanging the towels down the side so they don't hug it. In that case, also you cannot add because this addition would cause it to cook faster. From which we see, by the way, that if it wouldn't cause it to cook faster because it was fully cooked, it would be allowed to add to that on Shabbos.
Now, is this on the stove or off the stove? This case.
This last case is on the stove. This last case is on the stove.
Okay, on the stove.
Which is why adding would cause it to cook, which is why it's not allowed.
So, if it's on the stove and the cover fell off after Shabbos, is there a, if it was off for an hour or two, can you still put it back on since it had Hatmana at the onset of Shabbos?
The only problem with the case on the stove is if it's not fully cooked.
If it was fully cooked.
If it was fully cooked, the kind of Hatmana that he's talking about, as we're going to see later on, is not a real Hatmana. Because we're talking about a case where you have a pot, and then you drape something over the pot that is bigger than the pot, like this, and then you put a towel over it, so the towel hangs down the sides with the pot in the middle, not actually being insulated along the sides of the pot. So that's actually not Hatmana. So technically you could do it on Shabbos, even for the first time, as long as the food is fully cooked.
Okay.
It doesn't fall technically under the category of Hatmana. Okay, my friends. I think just to talk about next week for a moment. Yeah, if you could get two people, that would be good.
Monday, you're not here.
Monday I am here. Tuesday I'm not.
Tuesday the 22nd.
Tuesday I'm not, which is the 3rd of Tammuz, correct.
I have a Maisa Shahaya.
I'm going to be in New York. One second. I think we're going to skip Sunday, and the plan is on Monday. I'm sorry? The plan is on Monday night. I would like to finish Rishon and Zion. It is within reach. And then what I'd like to do is record a Chazorah session, pre-recorded, so you can watch it at your leisure
From the oil?
from the plane.
How many people?
Two. We need two.
We need two more. Nobody
I know, I need two more, but they daven. One of them daven.
Nobody
I
daven.
like Palat.
Nobody
I didn't
daven.
daven.
Nobody daven.
Daven, no.
Nobody daven. So the point is, and then my plan is the week that I'll be in Israel to give you a written test from Rishon and Gimel, by the way, from 253 till 257.
Wait, so next week?
We're here Monday.
Next week, Monday only.
And the week after that, you're gone?
I'm gone the next week. So next Monday, there'll be a class. Hopefully I'll have a recorded class later on in the week. I don't know if I'll have it for Tuesday or Wednesday, but whatever. That'll be just a review session. And then the next week, you'll have your own leisure time to do the test. Yes.
I like that. Good plan.
Very good.
Good plan.
So this past Shabbos, I was somewhere and I was back after Hashkama, and the Balabayas put the food in the oven. I guess they thought that it was on Shabbos mode, so it was okay to put food in the oven on Shabbos morning. So I saw that at like 10 a.m. I knew they weren't coming back until like 12. So I took out the food and I put it on the counter and I let it cool down. And then like a half hour later, when it was cold, I put it on the blech.
Where did he take it from?
What?
Where did he take it from?
The fridge. Did I do the right thing?
Dry? It was dry?
Yeah.
Interesting, Shana. Interesting, Shana. The question is, does a forbidden chazor become asur till after Shabbos? That's the question.
That's why I let it cool down.
I think it becomes asur till after Shabbos. I don't know if cooling down helps.
Really? Well, to add to it, after the Balabayas came home, I passed by the kitchen and I saw the food was back in the oven.
Oh, well, that took care of that. Right now, I think it's asur, but I have to look it up in Rishon and Gimel. But I think it says chazor is asur till after Shabbos.
Even if it cools down. Wow.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, unless we can think of an opinion that says it's permissible. If you can think of an opinion that says it's permissible, that's the only way. As far as chazara into the oven, some say it's permissible. But as far as the fact that the oven is not grufa uktuma, that's why it seems to be a problem. See what I'm saying? There's no blech in the oven.
Right.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
A pleasure.